I hope you bomb at your first real jam. I hope you walk in there, plug in, and then everything falls apart. You lose your place, you forget the key, you feel like you've never played guitar in your life. But let me tell you something that real guitar players know. That moment isn't failure. That moment is a threshold, because you've just learned way more in 30 minutes of bombing than you would 30 minutes playing guitar by yourself. You learn that what playing with others really demands. You need to listen actively. You need to respond, not just recite. And most importantly, you need to let go of perfection and start playing for real. And the guitar players who grow the fastest, they're not the ones who avoid those moments. They're the ones who have survived them. So one of the first things that bombing your first jam can actually teach you is where your reaction time is. Reaction time is critical. You want to be able to go straight into a solo or straight into rhythm by reading the cues of the band. And I'm going to show you the quickest and easiest way to do this, so you're not going to have to waste time thinking about your next move. So let's say you hit up your local blues jam and everyone's jamming in the key of A. And maybe they're playing a blues standard, or maybe they're just jamming, right? But they're in the key of A, so they tell you that beforehand, so you have that piece of information going in. Now, the quickest and easiest way I've found to just like jump straight into whatever key that the band is playing in is to start with your low E string, all right? Your first 11 frets from the open string can actually tell you where every musical key is. So for example, if we're playing in the key of A, I can determine that the key of A is right here because this 5th fret right here, that note is A, right? And then once I find that position, I can now sort of paradrop this scale pattern that I can use, like the minor pentatonic scale pattern. And this is really all I need, right? There's obviously other pentatonic positions that I could use, but if I'm not in a place where I'm comfortable, really burning up the whole fretboard at a jam, it's okay to have a little bit of a safety net, right? But if you play it with enough confidence, no one's gonna question you. So what's great about this particular pentatonic pattern, right? 5-8, 5-7, 5-7, 5-7, 5-8, 5-8, right? Is that it contains more than just notes for soloing. There's actually some really great little spots you can use for your rhythm playing. So basically this pattern will have everything that you need in a pinch to get away with playing rhythm and lead. Take for example, you're playing rhythm, right? It's not your turn to solo yet. So rather than figuring out, okay, how can I do some kind of killer blues comping over this? Don't worry about that, right? When in doubt, especially as a guitar player, you can also emulate what a horn section does and just do little chord stabs, right? One thing I personally love to do that's really simple, especially in this pattern here, is if we're in the key of A, right? I can do stuff like this. Right? Or if it's like if there's an obvious, an A7 thing going on, where I can go, where I'm basically barring right here, the 5th fret on the D, G, and B strings, right? And I'm just hitting that little triad, just with those chord stabs, right? Just kind of picture a horn section, just hitting those, right? Bop, bop, right? Because you're gonna have the bass doing probably something like this, just a driving bass line, right? And then you're gonna have, obviously, the drummer's gonna be getting the shuffle thing going, right? So in there, you don't have to do, you could do that if you wanted to, but as a guitar player, we want to just like find our pocket, right? Find our sonic space. And whether you're playing, holding it down, doing the cowboy blues thing, you could also just do, so whether or not you're doing, if you're playing an A7 chord here, right? Or just like an A minor chord, if you want to do the A7 thing, you just add your 2nd finger here on the 6th fret of the G string, and you can go, just hit it with a little hammer on, that always sounds really good. And then you can also bar right here on the 7th fret, same strings, D, G, and B. And here's the cool thing, right? In this pattern, those are right within that. So you can get away with just pretty much playing that, right? You can just hit those stabs. And then when it moves, let's say to the 4 chord, you can actually play this triad right here, which is the 4 chord, right? It's D. So in the key of A, the 4 chord would be D. So you can go, and then you can knock it out that way. And if they hit a 5 chord, like an E7, you can actually play a lick there, because usually, you know, they don't hang on the 5 too long in your typical 12-bar blues. You can do something like this, you know. You know, so it's like you play a little lick in there just for some embellishment. You're not soloing, you're just throwing in a cool little lick, which is literally just, I'm starting right here. What I did basically is I started on E, which is the note, right? The root note of the 5 chord of the E7. I started on E, and then just kind of walked down the scale a little bit, and then worked it back into those little chord stabs. And so by doing that, like you could drop me into any blues jam right now, and if they're playing in the key of A, and you know, it fits the vibe, right? If it's like a mid-tempo shuffle, I could throw that in there and be just fine and totally confident. And I'm not saying that to try and impress anybody, right? But you can carry through the whole jam playing rhythm just doing that if you wanted to, for the whole song at least. And then when it comes time to take a solo, you can just stick within that minor pentatonic pattern, you know, and then just like play some blues licks, right? And you'll be golden. And when it comes time to take a solo, which is another important thing, you got to pay attention, right? You might get the nod from somebody like, hey, take a solo. You want to be able to jump right in. So without thinking of like, oh, do I play here? Do I play here? What's going on? You already know where to play. You're already in that neighborhood with that pattern. It's super useful, right? There's a reason why most guitar players, especially our favorite guitar players, you know, like to use it. So we can just jump right in on a solo. You know, whatever. Play whatever you want, right? If you're comfortable enough with that pattern already, then you can play some licks and then you can get away with it, right? And then when it comes time to go back into rhythm, because now you've taken your 12-bar solo and you got to pass it to the keyboard player or the blues harp player or whoever else is in the band, right? Then you can go back to, right? Or you can go, right? So depending on what the band is doing, if you want to lean more in the minor tonality or the dominant tonality, right? Or the seventh chord, throw that major third in there. And that's just a simple modification, right? We're just adding our finger right there to that triad shape and we're good to go. And this also applies if you're just jamming with a buddy, right? Two of you sit down and then one of them's like, I'll take rhythm, you take a solo, and you pass it back and forth. And the beauty of being a guitar player is we can take this exact same pattern, move it to other positions on the fretboard to adapt to different keys. So if let's say the next song is like, hey, we're gonna do this one in B flat, right? You don't wanna be able to say, I have no idea where B flat is. You wanna be like, B flat, okay, got it, right? And so right here on the 7th fret of the low E string, that's B, right? So if I wanna find B flat, I just go down 1 fret, flatten it, right? And there's B flat, literally a fret up from where we just were. And I can do the same thing. You know, just like jumping into the solo, playing those triads, and then getting away with it, right? And of course, if the tempo is a little bit different, if let's say it's not much of a shuffle, it's more of a jump blues or more of a slow blues, you know, you can adapt accordingly with the tempo. But as far as the actual content for what you're supposed to play on the fretboard, you have it right there in front of you with that pattern. And it doesn't matter what key the band wants to play in. Let's say it's in the key of G. You do the same thing. You bring it on over here to the 3rd fret of the low E string, which is a G root note. Fill in that same pattern. And you got those same triads, right? Now, if you don't already know how to find every key on your fretboard via the low E string, don't worry, because I've got something for you that's gonna help fix that right away. But before I get into that, if you would do me a favor, hit that like button and consider subscribing to our channel if you're getting value out of this lesson so far. Now, the other really important thing that you learn from bombing your first jam is the importance of mental fortitude. It definitely takes a situation like that to make you stronger. Because think about it, for some people, that's like their biggest fear in the world. But the thing you have to understand is that you'll survive, and next time, you will play better. The point of a jam is not to show up and then just outplay everybody. You may think it's weird that I'm saying this, but that's a young man's game. In my experience, the best kind of jams is where everyone was supportive and lifted each other up. Now listen, if you don't already know how to find every key just on the low E string and then play that pentatonic pattern, I've got just the thing that's going to show you how to do that in a matter of minutes. And it's this guy right here. This is a free guide on how to instantly solo in any key. What you learned today was barely the tip of the iceberg compared to what this lesson is going to give you. It's going to show you in record time how to find every musical key on your fretboard just on the low E string, and then show you how to play the pentatonic patterns to solo and play rhythm in those keys, whether it's major or minor. And you're gonna be able to take what you learned today and apply it to any musical key, so there's absolutely no way that you're gonna bomb at your next jam. Just be sure to click here to claim your free copy, or if you're watching this on TV, scan the QR code, or check the link that I left for you in the description box. Now, if you've already bombed at a jam before, drop a comment below. Tell us what happened, what you learned, and how you bounced back. And if you haven't yet, good. Now you have a much better idea of what to expect.